Hello students, and welcome to the first of 3 online flipped classroom lectures. Each of these lectures will focus on our unit on William Shakespeare, his most popular work, Romeo and Juliet, and lastly, the stage and screen adaptations of Romeo and Juliet that are popular in today's culture. In this unit, we will discuss some information behind the history of William Shakespeare, the themes, key details, and character actions in Romeo and Juliet, and finally, discuss the comparisons and contrasts between Shakespeare's play and an adaptation of his work. After you have watched each video, make sure to post a comment in the comment section describing what you learned from this video and what you feel you need more information on. Now, while you are capable of watching and pausing the videos at any time, I do suggest that you take notes while watching these lectures, because some of the information in these lectures will be mentioned in class. Before we begin with Romeo and Juliet, let's look at both a brief overview of William Shakespeare and a historical context behind Romeo and Juliet. William Shakespeare was born April 23, 1564, in the town of Stratford-upon-Avon. Now, little is known about William Shakespeare's childhood, but he is mostly remembered for his impact on comedic and dramatic theater, and more importantly, the English language. He introduced thousands of words into the English language and used several unique words in his plays and short stories. Along with Romeo and Juliet, he has created several other tragedies and comedies, including Macbeth, Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Much Ado About Nothing, and plenty more. The Bard, even 400 years after his death, still remains an iconic and popular author, poet, and writer, and his works are read and studied countlessly to this day. Now for some historical context behind the play. Up until the time Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet, romance, especially the romance between two naive adolescent lovers, was a topic not commonly addressed in tragedies. However, Romeo and Juliet was, and still remains, Shakespeare's greatest and most creative mix of both his dramatic and comedic writings. Romeo and Juliet was also inspired by an earlier work written in the 1560s by Arthur Brooke titled Romeo and Juliet. However, some differences between Brooke's work and Shakespeare's adapted version was that Shakespeare changed the pace of the play from roughly 9 months in Brooke's original work to just 4 days, and Shakespeare's version introduced other minor characters into the play. Romeo and Juliet also borrows heavily from another one of Shakespeare's previous works, Pyramus and Thisbe, which Shakespeare explicitly references in the play. Now, before we move on to Romeo and Juliet, here's a trivia question for you all, just to make sure you all are still paying attention. What was the name of William Shakespeare's wife? The answer? Anne Hathaway. Hooray for useless trivia that may be useful if you're ever on Jeopardy! Anyways, on to Romeo and Juliet. Now, even if you have not read Romeo and Juliet before this unit, I'm pretty sure you all may understand some of the themes that take place in the play. Boy falls in love with girl. Girl falls in love with boy. Parents disapprove of their relationship. It's like high school drama circa late 16th century. However, Shakespeare's use of structural language, along with the stories surrounding young lovers dealing with family rivalries, makes Romeo and Juliet one of Shakespeare's most iconic and relevant plays to today's culture. In the play, which takes place in the Italian city of Verona, the two rival families are the Montagues, in which Romeo is the son, and the Capulets, in which Juliet is the daughter. These star-crossed lovers meet, fall in love, and unfortunately meet their untimely fate. Now don't worry, I didn't just spoil the ending for you all, since Shakespeare mentions in the prologue that both Romeo and Juliet will unfortunately die. Speaking of prologue, here's a short video containing the prologue of Romeo and Juliet, and in the comments section, let me know what you think Shakespeare is saying in the prologue. Now, after watching that short video of the prologue, what ideas are going through your mind? Could you understand what Shakespeare was saying in the prologue? What was your interpretation of the language? Write down or type up some of your ideas and bring them into class tomorrow. I also have a couple discussion questions for each of you, so please respond to these in the comments section below. For your discussion questions, is this your first time reading a work by William Shakespeare? If so, what are some of your expectations concerning his language, or Romeo and Juliet in general? If not, which work of his did you previously read? What is your favorite and least favorite part about reading William Shakespeare? With the prologue in mind, for homework, I would like you all to read the first 2 acts of Romeo and Juliet. And while you are reading, select some lines from the text that you either relate to or are confused by. Now we will discuss the first 2 acts in detail in the next lecture, but if you are confused by anything in the first 2 acts, let me know. Also, start looking at some Romeo and Juliet stage and screen adaptations, because you will need to pick one by the time I post the 3rd lecture. Now for the next flipped classroom lecture, we will go over some of the romantic themes that are referred to in Romeo and Juliet, such as love, time, and the duality of light and dark, as well as focusing on some of the language Shakespeare uses. We're also going to go over some of the information presented in Acts 1 and 2 of Romeo and Juliet. Now remember, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, email me at ccw12b@my.fsu.edu. I'll be back soon with the second flipped classroom lecture. And with that said, enjoy your reading.